Here goes nothing.
You're at 109 right now.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the IC109 podcast. I am your host, Larry Wiggs. This episode of the IC109 podcast is brought to you by The Vince Staples Show. Man, what a show that was. I've watched 3 episodes. Let's see, Black Business, Brown Family. Those are the only titles that I recall, but whatever. You know how we do at the IC109 podcast. Everything is impromptu. I don't have any notes. I'm just riffing, just going off the top of the dome. I watched the Brown Family episode. You heard me laugh a minute ago when I mentioned it. Oh man, that was hilarious and just profoundly familiar. I mean, I can't say that we've had fights occur at our family gatherings, but at the most recent family gathering, sadly, at my grandmother's funeral, I kind of felt some way, and the way that I felt, or the character that was portrayed in the movie, I really identify with that character. So, you know, that's what I mean by it was familiar. Anywho, there was the other episode where they went to Surf City. That wasn't Brown Family. What was that one called? Red Door. I think it was called Red Door. Man, the scene in the store, and at the store is located at the amusement park, and then the exchange, the interaction between the cashier and the young lady. Oh man, that was interesting. Oh, and then the interaction between Vince, that young lady, and then those 2 young ladies who worked at the amusement park. Like, it was just too real. It was just natural, and it was just so poignant because it captured so much. I'm being intentionally vague because if you haven't seen the show, well, I don't want to give it away. I just wanted to just to note that, hey, it's a dope show. But hey, you're at.
You're at 109 right now.
So let's get it cracking, shall we? I want to talk to you about Mexico, or Mexico. And I also want to talk about racism. And this topic for this podcast is actually inspired by the Vince Staples show because they mentioned something about racism. They mentioned white gaze. They mentioned, profiling in that scene where the young lady's at the store at the amusement park, right? That's why I brought it up. But the question of the day is, are Mexicans racist? And interestingly enough, I went to YouTube to do a little quick, like, cursory research, and I typed in "Are Mexicans racist?" and a comedian popped up. And the comedian is he's Mexican, and so he was talking about the topic of racism. But I listened to his joke. The video is about 4 minutes long. Let me pull it up here as I'm speaking. Let's type in YouTube. Excuse me, y'all, for a second. Let's run the search. On YouTube, I'm just going to type in "Are Mexicans racist?" And here's the video. Okay, this is Felipe Esparza, and that's the title of the video. Well, no. The title of the video is "Mexicans Are Racist Too." Felipe Esparza. And so this video was uploaded 4 years ago. It's gotten 5.5 million views, etc. And the dude is just talking about, quote unquote racism. But after listening to the video, he was more talking about colorism, right? Because he's talking about darker complected Mexicans as compared to lighter complected Mexicans. But he's making some points, you know? And I think the lines are blurred between racism and colorism here. But I think with this podcast, I'm going to make a statement, a few statements that should make those lines clearer. so that we are clearer about what we're talking about, because we just have a tendency to just blur the lines and just go with it, and not really, dissect, analyze things, or critically think about these things, right? We just go along with it for entertainment's sake. So, all right, first, I'm going to play a little bit of his joke, and just to get you warmed up, okay? Thinking about this stuff. Let's see what he has to say. This is 4 minutes long. I'm not going to play the whole video, but we're going to get what we can get and add it to the conversation. Let's listen to Felipe Esparza.
I hear the kitchen staff. Volver. Aquí estoy, pinche pocho. Tú dime, cabrón. Then I look at them the way Mexicans look at illegal Mexicans. Fucking wetbacks over there. Those fuckers made it far. That's how we are, huh? We get racist against each other for fun. Like when there's no white people in the room or no African American people in the room, shit, we start noticing dark fucking Mexicans. We'll be dancing at the wedding and shit. What the fuck, bro? Who invited Chocomil over there? That's the darkest Aztec warrior I've seen in my life. Fucking Kunta Chente, bro. Oh shit, he got me. Like, I consider myself a dark, Middle Eastern, ISIS-looking Mexican. But if I see a darker Mexican, hey, bro, what the fuck, bro? Who invited Django Garcia, bro? Oh, he's Mexican. Who invited Chango Garcia? That's your brother? I don't know your brother. What the fuck? Where did he work? At an oil refinery? Like, white people never fight each other over who's whiter. Fuck you, Lance. Fuck you, Travis. Shut up, here comes Pale Ale. But Mexicans do fight each other. Somebody has to be the main Mexican. Fuck, my cousin's telling me, fuck you, fool, I'm more Mexican than you. I'm more Mexican than you. We started fighting, and he was more Mexican than me. Oh, fuck, he knocked me out. I was looking at him, go, damn, bro, you are more Mexican. I can't believe you're wearing cleats in my house. You fucked up my mom's tile. I'm gonna deport your ass.
All right, so that's just to give you a little bit of taste of the comedy. So you hear him. He's talking about, colorism. He's talking about darker complected human beings and the perception, right, within the Mexican community, right? And so the racist, aspect, even the title says Mexicans are racist too. Like, is that really racist? Is that really racist? Okay, so here's the statement that I want to make, right? Be very clear on it. Race is a social construct. Race is made up, okay? Race, right? We are of the human race, okay? So genetically, anthropologically speaking, all the evidence shows that we as a human race of people, humanity, right? We all descended basically from Africa, and we are all of the Africanas, what, Homo sapien, Africanus something, Africanus Australopithecus, something like this. Okay, don't trust what I say. Do your own research, because I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just free to talk about what I'm talking about on the IC109 podcast.
You're at 109 right now.
Okay, but I've done my research, and this is where the conversation is with me. All right, this is my understanding. So take away from it what you will, right? But do your own research and then come back to me so we can talk, right? All right. So every human being on the planet is of the same species, of the same, genetic makeup. There are no more Neanderthals, right? There are no Cro-Magnon. There are no others. Everything is Homo sapien sapien, Africanus, Australopithecus, right? That's what we are. Um, that Australopithecus sounds like Australian, and that might not be right. Let me see. Africans. I'm putting it in Google. Africanus Australopithecus, and is that what we are? Homo sapiens sapiens? Maybe Australopithecus africanus is a completely different species. See, I was wrong right there. Mm, it's an extinct species. I was wrong. Australopithecus africanus is an extinct species, so I was wrong. So okay, to be very clear, we're Homo sapiens sapiens. That's what we are. Let me put that in there. Homo sapien, right? Homo sapien sapien is Homo sapiens. Yep. Sorry for taking up your time trying to do some research as we're doing. Homo sapiens sapiens. That's what it is, right? I did a quick search and I got Homo sapiens. That's all right. Whatever. Okay. As I was saying, every man, woman, and child on the planet now is a Homo sapien, and that's it. That's all that there is to it. We're done, okay, with this discussion. So there's only one race of people, but then the idea that we are different comes about because of the differences of our in appearance, right? And so people are judged, people are discriminated against because of our appearances, and one of the discriminating factors in the power dynamics in people has been colorism. So the lighter one is, the more power is ascribed to them, right? The movie They Clone Tyrone comes to mind when you see at the local stores, the convenience store, at the hair salon, at the restaurant, all of the people who worked there were light skinned, Afro sporting white people, or a light skinned, woman at the beauty salon. So that was establishing a caste. In They Clone Tyrone, they were making it very clear that there's a caste system, and light is or white is right, and black is at the bottom, right? Anyway, I wanted this to be more of an entertaining and more lighthearted, discussion. But I also want to tackle Mexico, the subject of Mexico, in particular slavery in Mexico, because this past week I learned some things about slavery in Mexico. I went searching online. I found some interesting information about it. And what I learned is that enslaved Africans in Texas, because they were so near Mexico, they could cross the border, which they did. All right. Many enslaved Africans escaped from slavery and went to Mexico. And one of the most famous, formerly enslaved Africans who escaped to freedom in Mexico was William Ellis, whom I learned about in 2018. I met his great nephew or something. Anyhow, Mr. Ellis crossed the border, took his skills, his knowledge, his trade, and he became a Mexican millionaire. See, he spoke Spanish. He didn't have a phenotype that was, clearly African. So he was passing for Mexican because he spoke the language and he just didn't look like your typical, African, you know. And so he fared far better in Mexico than he did in America. And it's sad because he had to travel between Mexico and America because he became wealthy in Mexico. But as soon as he got to America, where he tried to sit in first class and and live freely as he did in Mexico, he found that he was still treated unfairly because he was clearly not white, which is a terrible reality. But it's true. That's what happened to him. So William Ellis is an exception. His story is an exception to the rule that blacks moved from America to Mexico, and in general, the conditions in Mexico were not so favorable for the blacks. Not because Mexicans treated blacks worse. In fact, that's not true. Mexicans embraced blacks and then even gave extended citizenship to the blacks who traveled from America. They gave them citizenship. So, like, power to Mexico. Like, wow, that's empowering and that's powerful to know. Mexico was like, yo, we got you. You're here now. You're with us. And so that was very, nice. That's a nice part of history to learn. However, for those Africans who traveled across the border, they found that the conditions in Mexico were just harsher, just more difficult, for them to survive and enjoy life. They were free, but they had to speak Spanish to get whatever they needed. And if they weren't up on their Spanish, then they were already, I guess, second class citizens. Like, yo, you got to be up on your ish, bro, if you're going to be over here. That's the kind of, mentality. And then on top of that, it was like the conditions just weren't, better. You had to have your wits about you. It's not like, I don't know how to compare it. Like, if America had the internet, or at least was developing the internet, Mexico didn't have the internet. Mexico was running on some, you know, some, dare I say, some primitive technology, and you had to be savvy enough to fend for yourself. So the result of the difficult lives that were faced by the Africans in Mexico, although they were free, they oftentimes returned to the United States to be like, yeah, America is, what is it? America is the devil that we know. Mexico is the devil that we don't know, right? So they had to choose, and they would go back to Mexico and accept enslavement for what it was because it was more familiar, you know? That's the sad part. That's the sad reality. But again, like I said, William Ellis was an exception because he was able to travel across the border, and then he was able to thrive and flourish and become a millionaire, whereas many blacks did not, find the same fortune. For those blacks who were in Mexico, they did stay. If they did stay, if they did stay, they married into the population and they got through. They settled, and their lives and their influence can be seen probably in the complexion of the society. So if you do see some darker Africans, it could be because of the blacks who came from Texas. You know, these are just some ideas, guys. Just some ideas to think about. Some things that really fascinated me. So the other thing is that Mexico's second president, Vicente Guerrero, started the ball. He created a snowball effect where he, as an Afro Mexicano, initiated the process of slavery abolishment. Okay, so I didn't mention this, but there was slavery in Mexico, but it was also done away with when an Afro Mexicano rose to power, and he became the second president of Mexico. See, Mexico had a whole bunch of ish going on because they were fighting for their independence. So they had to, get squared away with independence first before they can make any policy changes. And once they squared away with their independence, well, then now the rise of the Afro Mexicano led to the the change of the society. Can you imagine? That was a rapid change, actually. That was pretty rapid. Probably like 30 some odd years or so after independence. I don't quote me on that. Don't quote me, but do your own research. You know, the dates. We're not going strictly on dates, but we're thinking about themes and ideas here. The larger picture, the big picture, that's what we're looking at. The point, the larger picture, the point that I want to make is Mexico freed their slaves, abolished slavery. Not only freed their slaves, but abolished slavery, or at least started the process well before the United States, like 40 years before the United States, about approximately. Do your research again. Don't trust what I say. All right. And then after Vicente Guerrero, the second president, was killed because he had some haters and they betrayed him and they were like, what is this black guy doing in office? No, we're gonna change it around because there was some racist, undertones, some prejudices, right? They still exist. Oh, and don't get it twisted. Mexico, Latin America is full of colorism and discrimination against, darker hued humans. Okay, that's real. But the question is, are Mexicans racist? So it's like it's a complicated question. But my answer to that question is actually complicated. I stated that race is a social construct, and so the let me gather my thoughts here. In order for a group to be racist, they have to have power. Okay, it's a power dynamic. Racism is birthed out of a power dynamic. It's an ideology created by those who are in power in order to maintain their power, based upon, colorism. All right. So colorism exists. Okay, so if you don't have power, if you're not in the position to make policies that affect the lives of people, to subjugate them, then you're not racist. You could be prejudiced. You could have a funky attitude. You could be an asshole, but racist, well, yeah, whatever about that. Okay, and if you are an asshole and you have these ideals of racism, these racist ideals, for the most part, people just have to navigate around you because you're just ignorant, okay? Ignorant and unkind towards your fellow man, basically. That's my perspective, right? So the thing about this is Mexico racist. Mexico doesn't have a history of racism the way that the United States does. It wasn't institutionalized, and there wasn't. It wasn't as harsh. Well, I can't speak for the how harsh life was in Mexico, but I mean, American slavery is known was is known as the peculiar institution because of how devastating it was, right? All right. And then the idea that Mexico's second president abolishes slavery, or at least starts the process, and then in 1837 it's completely abolished throughout the entire land of Mexico. Like, wow. And then let's talk about the other Afro Mexicanos who had influence, and let's talk about in Los Angeles right here in Olvera Street. You had Pio Pico, the last governor of Alta California, because, okay, we're talking about Mexico here. Mexico at one time included California, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, and Texas. All right. And in California, in Los Angeles in particular, Los Angeles, which was a city founded by Afro Mexicanos, about 40 some odd, black Mexicans, or rather, about 40 some odd people, the majority of whom were, the majority of who were Afro Mexicans, founded Los Angeles. I should be on top of my Spanish and I should be on top of my knowledge because Los Angeles' original name, I should say it right about now. Let me see. Los Angeles, I'm doing a Google search, original name, La Pueblo, something like that. El pueblo de Nuestra Señora la Reina de los Ángeles del Río Porciúncula. El pueblo de Nuestra Señora la Reina de los Ángeles del el Río Porciúncula. It's a beautiful name. It's a long name, but it's a beautiful name. So, what is this ideal of racism? Like, it's American. It's an American byproduct. It's a colonial. It's an imperialist byproduct. And then Mexico, and then Mexico. If racism is an imperial colonial byproduct, it wasn't Mexico that was the empire. It was Spain that was the empire that transformed the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Inca. It was Spain. It was Portugal. Well, Portugal, that would be Brazil, but it would be this European influence that changed the face of. In particular, we're talking about Mexico, right? Spain, led by an Italian explorer, Cristobal Colon. And so are Mexicans racist? Like, nah. Like, but you can find some assholes who are trying to be racist or trying to, implement their prejudice and stuff, and anti-black racism. Oh! I just read about this in the Los Angeles Times. I was reading an article about LAPD, and LAPD mentioned that LAPD has changed. It's no longer what it was in the past. My grandfather was an LAPD officer for like 20 plus years. And he talked about the racism, the institutional racism in that organization. All right. But this article I read tried to convince me that LAPD is not the organization it was when my grandfather was a police officer. That's what they want to tell me. There's a particular sentence in the article that says LAPD is not your grandfather's, police department or whatever. I'm like, man, that really speaks to me because my granddad was an officer. But what they did mention is that there are anti-black Latinos in the LAPD. And that's just a matter of that's just a fact, that's factual. And that's just a matter of being an asshole in a position. And I guess they just want to hold their position. They're trying to hold on for dear life for their particular position. It's like Jean-Michel Basquiat painted the picture and entitled it Irony of a Black, Policeman. It's the same thing, irony of a Mexican policeman. Because what happens is the blacks and the Latinos become agents of the racial institution that they are working in. They become the agents of that. They may not be racist themselves. They may, or rather, they may have forgotten that they are that they are members of the communities that they are, harming. They say hurt people, you dig? So they're in a precarious situation themselves, and the only way they see out of it is to, show off. What did Ice Cube say? Black cop showing off for the white cops, something like that. Showing up for the white, showing up. I don't know, something to that effect. But that's what it boils down to. So are Mexicans racist? No, unless there are racist politicians in place, and they have serious anti-black policies and laws in place. But people are saying that about America. They're saying America no longer has racist laws in place. However, we know that American society is racist because of the history. Like right now, you can find communities that were predominantly, or excuse me, rather, you can find communities that were redlined in the past when racism and racist policies were in the laws. And you can find that those communities today are still primarily homogeneously composed of one ethnic group. And that being the case shows that, hey, even though we don't follow racist laws today, we do have people benefiting from their position in society that was granted to them by the benefits, or yeah, by the benefits of those racist laws that were on the books, a long time ago. So it's quite a complicated situation. It's quite a complicated situation, and history is a very important part of all of this, learning the history. So this is Black History Month. You know, yo hablo español un poquito, pero a veces puedo comunicar mis ideas con fluidez. So I just wanted to big up Mexico. I might travel to Mexico soon. Who knows? Got to look at my funds. Got to look at the money. But again, the Vince Staples show was pretty dope because it addressed, colorism. It addressed colorism, and I thought that was interesting, and it inspired me to do a little talking about this. Olvera Street, the history of Los Angeles, Mexico. I guess the last thing I'll talk about is Mexican food. The comments was made. See, I was having a conversation with a fellow colleague of mine, and the comment was made that Mexican food is better than, pretty much all other Latin American food because of the history and the development of the cuisine. Other countries had, struggled to gain their independence, and so their cuisine and society didn't develop the way that Mexico did. But then again, Mexico has a long history, right? The Olmecs, the Mayas, the Inca. No, not the Incas. Incas are, South American, but Aztec, Mayans, and the Olmecs, yeah, in particular. So you have all this influence, and then the development of the cuisine. I meant to say it. I thought of it, but I forgot to say it. Like, yeah, the Mayans, the Aztec, and the Olmec, and all that rich history. The original language of Mexico, or the original languages of Mexico, it has nothing to do with Spanish. I meant to say that when I was talking about the Spanish explorers, imperialists, and the colonizers. They brought Spanish to Latin America, and Spanish is not their language, original language. Nahuatl, that's the Mexican language, right? Or the language of the Aztecs or something. Again, don't trust me. Don't trust what I say because I don't know what I'm talking about. These are just ideas off the top of the dome. I'm just riffing over here.
You're at 109 right now.
You dig? So, yeah. So, are Mexicans racist? No. Or maybe they are. Maybe there are some policies I don't know about on the books. If I'll say this, if there are comic strips that are about black monkeys, like Meming Penguin, that was mentioned in Black in Latin America. I'm not sure if Meming Penguin was. I think Meming Penguin was in Mexico, but then there was another character in Peru. So I might be confusing the two, Mexico and Peru. But my point, what I want to say, the statement is, if there are black caricatures, monkey caricatures that are like humanoid, human-like, that are meant to denigrate, black people, people of African, descent, that's basically an asshole move. Is it racist? It certainly has racist undertones, but again, going along with the ideal, you have to be in a position of power to create these rules and these laws that subjugate people. If you don't have that, if there isn't the law arm, the legal arm of your ideology that is operating to diminish the humanity of a group, then quote unquote it's not racist. But what they're doing is racialized, right? It's complicated, but and again, these are just my ideas, my thoughts, so and my, you know, summation and estimation of what we have, what circumstances we have in the world. I got to get out of here. I had a great time recording this audio about Mexico and all that good stuff. Hope you enjoyed it too. I'm your host, El Don Alfredo Sánchez de Los Ángeles, de Estados Unidos. Esta es Yo Veo 109 y nos vemos en el futuro. Adiós a todos.
You're at 109 right now.